Hello, hello. Oh boy. Hi, everybody. Let me know if you're here. Can you hear me? Can you see me? The way I'm seeing myself is a very tiny picture. Something's wrong here. I see that there are 3 people here. Hi, guys. What is happening? Why? If you're here, please say hi. Let me know if you can hear and see and whether my view is tiny like it is on mine. Let me see what's going on. Yep, it is tiny here. Let's see. Group. Let's see if I can make myself bigger. No, that didn't work. Why is this happening? I'm very tiny. Yeah. Hey, Gary. Nice to see you. I'm not sure why that is happening. Okay. That has never happened to me before. So let's see. Full screen. Not sure why that happened. Settings. Rate. Recording quality. Video. Okay. Stream is lower than the recommended. We use a stream. 45. Okay. I'm going to sign off and sign right back on again. I think I know what that is. 500. Hello, hello. Am I still tiny? Okay, I'm going to end this stream and start again, I guess. Gary, are you still here? Yes, I'm still tiny. Can you hear me okay? Seems like there's 2 viewers here. Everything on my end looks like it should be working, and yet, of course, we have last-minute technical issues. Gary, what are you saying yes to? I'm not sure what you're saying yes to, so if you could let me know. 2 people here. I'm gonna try this again. You can hear me. Can you hear me well? Am I quiet? Do I need to turn up? Okay. I'm still tiny. I know. I'm going to... I don't understand why that is happening. Okay. What if I do this and this? Does that look better? Is that better, Gary? You can hear me well? Yeah, it looks like it's working better now, right? Yes. Okay, awesome. Yay. All right. So we should be good to go. Better? Am I full screen, Gary? Full screen, yes? Yes. Okay, awesome. You can hear me. You can hear my piano. So we've got two people here. Or is one of them me? All right. We're going to get started. And as people join, I hope that they will say hello. All right. So, oops. Let me grab one thing and I'll be right back. Okay. So we've got some really great questions from the people in the class. Whoops. There we go. From the people in the class. And we're going to talk about a lot of things. So an overview of what we're going to talk about. And I will put in the beginning of this video the start time of the actual class, which is about 6 minutes after. Okay. The things we're going to talk about are how do you adapt any given sheet music to your level. It's totally possible. You can take an easy version of a song and make it more full, or you can take a harder version of a song and pare it down to whatever you can do. So we'll be discussing that today. Another thing we will talk about is how do you learn a song or a piece that is this long. So for example, the advanced version is basically the exact version that the Eagles recorded. I did a note for note transcription. You don't have to play every single note that's on the page, and we'll talk about that. But how do you tackle something that is this long, right? Totally doable. You just have to understand basically, like, it's an order of operations, and I'll talk about that today. Why are there different beats per minute of metronome markings on the two versions that I have? So this was an awesome question that I would have never have thought to answer, because I know the answer, so it doesn't occur to me that there's a question about it. So I'm so grateful that Adrienne asked this question. So if you have the easy version, you'll see that it has a lower beats per minute, and the harder version is almost twice that. There's a reason for it. It doesn't mean that the harder version is twice as fast. We'll talk about that. And we'll also talk about how do you, if you've got both versions, how do you kind of merge them together to come up with something that works for you. All right, does that sound good? So Gary, you're the only one who has spoken. I don't know if other people are not here. Let me do a real quick check and make sure nobody's having trouble coming in. Yeah, nobody has responded to my email, so I'm going to assume people are just busy. They're going to catch the replay. It would be awesome if they were here because you can ask questions in real time. All right, looking, and Gary, I know you want to do a blend of both, so I'm going to address all of these things today. And if you have questions as I'm talking, just kind of put them in there, okay? And I will definitely answer. This is an interactive class. Okay, so let's talk about the beats per minute, which is usually the number you see at the top left of the sheet music. Couple of things to keep in mind. Those tempo indications are never written in stone. I would prefer to leave them out entirely, but my publisher, musicnotes.com, has this feature on their website where you can click play and you can hear a sample of the sheet music. In order for that feature to work, I have to give them a beats per minute. Okay, so that's why I include it in my sheet music. If you notice my original compositions, which I don't provide to musicnotes.com, but are on my website, there are no tempo indications like that. Okay, so do not take any beats per minute as like that's what you have to do. But that being said, there's a reason why I have different tempo indications for the easy and the advanced version. And the reasons are because of how I have notated the music. So, Gary, you still here? Can you hear me? I want to make sure that if whoever's here is still... I see 3 people. So, okay, I think one of those is mine. Who just joined us? Let us know, okay? Make yourself known. Where are you joining from? And yeah. All right. Great. Awesome. Okay. Thanks so much for the feedback, Gary. And whoever else is here, let me know. And they did. They just left. Okay. All right. So the advanced version is split up into 16th note increments. So the subdivision of the beat is 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. So I think earlier I said it backwards. The easy version has the higher number of beats per minute, and the harder version or the advanced version has the lower number. I said it backwards. So because my subdivision is an eighth note, I'm able to fit more notes into one eighth note beat. So for example, if I play the introduction, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E. So you hear how many notes are inside one quarter note beat. Now, if I play the intro to the easy version, if you have the easy version, look at it. My subdivision of the beat is an eighth note. It's twice as long as a 16th note. So I'm fitting fewer numbers of notes into one quarter note beat. Does that make sense? So when I count the easy version, I'm not counting 1E and a 2E and a. I'm counting 1 and 2 and. So the click hasn't really changed right now as I did it. Here's the advanced version, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E. And here's the easy version, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Do you see that? So the beat itself is the same, but I'm putting in fewer notes. So the counting of the intro for the easy version, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and. See how slow that is? So I have to speed up that beat, otherwise it would be really boring. So advanced version, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Easy version, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You see, it doesn't really work because we're measuring different things. So that's why the easy version has a metronome marking that is almost exactly twice that of the advanced version. Now, why didn't I just make it twice? Because I figure people are going to be looking at this number, the beats per minute, and using that as the guide to how fast they should play. And if you're learning the more easy version, chances are you don't have the technical ability to play very fast easily. So I slowed it down just a little bit. So it wouldn't sound as hard when you're just glancing at it. When the computer is playing it for you on the Music Notes website, you wouldn't hear a fast version like and get scared, right? So it was kind of like a marketing idea, sort of. I'm not trying to fool anybody, but I wanted just to let people know that they can play it slower and it's okay, no problem. So all that is the reason why I chose different metronome markings. But again, play it however you want. It's your performance, right? It's your experience of playing the piano. Don't ever let anyone else dictate to you how you should play. If you're enjoying it, if you're not experiencing pain because of bad technique, that's all. Those are the only two criteria, that you're having fun and you're not hurting yourself. Other than that, play it however you want, okay? All right. Oh, somebody joined us. If you can, please let us know who is here. That would be awesome. All right. So any questions about this, Gary and somebody else who is here? If you have a question about that later, you can let me know. But if you have one now, let me know now. Okay. So, all good. All right. I wonder who else is here. I'm so curious. The mystery person. I know Saturdays are not the greatest days, but I figure people won't be working on Saturday for the most part. Anyway, so let's talk about. Oh, and also, I know a lot of the. I forgot to say this earlier. A lot of the advanced version is written as lower notes or bass clef notes. Usually, people have, if they're not really good at reading sheet music or if they don't have the confidence, they tend to be better at treble clef than at bass clef. It could be for lots of reasons. Maybe they learned another instrument like flute or something else that uses treble clef, and so that's more familiar to them. And then when they pick up the piano, they're like, whoa, another set of notes to learn. So in my experience, this is mostly just a mental block. It's no more difficult to read bass clef than it is to read treble clef, right? It's just getting used to it. In the book that I'm writing now, which will be available around July 20th, I tell you how you can get really good at reading sheet music, and so you can apply it to the bass clef notes or to the lower notes. Like, I don't know if you know, Gary, or whoever else is watching, if you know about ledger lines. So ledger lines just extend the staff either higher or lower because the staff only has 5 lines and 4 spaces. So, and we have so many more notes, right? So if you have trouble reading bass clef or ledger line, you'll want to get my book. I'll make sure everybody knows about it, and that will help you. One thing I do not recommend is that you write in note names, because then you're just looking at letters. You're never going to get good at reading music, and there's always going to be like a conversion process happening, which slows down the reading. Okay, so the way you can, in this case, start learning to read the bass clef notes or the ledger line notes is to literally say them out loud as you're playing. So you could say, like in the left hand, and I'm looking at the advanced version, the very beginning is 2 Bs, right? So I know that I'm going to play 2 Bs. So I just say that, B. And I know I'm repeating. Then I can count down or figure out what the other notes are in the next measure. And you have F sharp. Okay, I see, Gary, you have a question. Would you go through the key that this is in and the chords? I spend time looking at the arpeggios that fall. Yes, I'm going to get to that when I talk about how to learn it. It's a great question. In this case, we're in the key of, how do you know what key you're in? So you can look at the first chord, generally gives you a good idea, and the last chord of the song gives you a really good idea. In this case, let me just make sure that I'm not speaking wrong. Yeah, in this case, both the first chord of the song and the last chord of the song are B minor triads. Okay, that's a huge clue as to what key you're in. Then you look at the key signature. In this case, we have F sharp and C sharp. A really quick way to know what key you're in from looking at the sharps is you look at the very last sharp on the right. In this case, it's C sharp. And you go a half step higher. So our last sharp, we've got F sharp, C sharp. Our last sharp is C sharp. You go a half step higher to D. So you're either in the key of D major or it's relative minor. Relative minor is the minor that shares the same key signature as the major. And the way you find it is you go down 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3. So you're either in the key of D major or B minor. Well, we already saw that our first chord was a B minor chord and our last chord was a B minor chord. And the key signature also points in that direction. So we are in the key of B minor. Does that make sense, Gary? And whoever else is watching? So we're in the key of B minor, and that's going to inform our choices. Does that mean we're only going to have F sharps and C sharps? No, of course not. When you're in a certain key, when you're in a certain key, you generally use if you're a major or minor, you generally use the 7 notes of that key, right? But that's not all, because music would be really boring if you just stuck to what's called the diatonic, meaning the notes that are in that key. If you just stuck to the diatonic notes, it would be really boring song. Now, if you look at the second measure, we already have an A sharp in the note, in the measure. So watch. That guy's not supposed to be in this key, but it's good. If we left it out, it would be like that. I'll play it without the A sharp, just so you can hear that it doesn't sound as good. Sounds like a different song, right? But we've got. Okay, and that happens to be an F sharp major chord. Oh, hi Diane. Yes, you do have to sign in, because otherwise YouTube doesn't know what account you're making a comment from. It's impossible, right? You can't be an anonymous commenter, although you can have your name as be anonymous. Hi Diane. Are you following along with what's going on? Do you have any questions? Just let me know, okay? So the actual class started a little late because I was having technical problems. Starts at like the 9-minute mark, okay, or something like that, the 7-minute mark. I'll put that in the description when the class is over. Okay. Hey Diane. Okay, I got you twice now. So Gary, does that make sense about what key we're in? Let me know so that I can either go further into it. It's a pretty simple subject, but there are so many like variations that I can talk about. I want to keep it on topic, but I don't want you to be confused. Okay, yes, it makes sense. Do you have any other questions? Awesome. Okay, so if you're having trouble reading the unfamiliar notes, I always say it like this, and my child students, which I have none of because I don't know why. I'm right now teaching all adults. Kind of cool. But the children really get this when I say, hey, like on the first day of school, new school, you go into class and there's like 40 people in your class and you don't know any of them. And you don't recognize their faces, their voices. Certainly you don't know their names, right? But about a week in, you know everybody. In fact, if you were in another room and you heard one of the other students talk, you could tell who it was just from the sound of their voice. Well, how did that happen? What happened was you started seeing them, hearing them talk, and their name being called. Or maybe you introduced yourself and you started using those people's names, right? So they just became a part of like this knowledge bubble. You know, the name, the face, the voice. You might know other things about them, like how tall, how short they are, the shape of their body, what kind of clothes they like to wear. You get to know them, right? So it's the same thing when you're reading music. You don't want to go around with this idea like, well, it's just hard for me. I can't do it. Okay, but there's ways to learn. Okay, and anyway, get the book if you have trouble with that. But basically, it is a process of seeing the note, like my analogy with the classroom, seeing the note on the page and on the piano, hearing what it's like, and saying its name. And you do this over and over, and it becomes so easy that, like someone who's a professional like me can sight read, and we don't have to like most things, not everything, obviously. We don't have to ponder like what are those notes. It's because we're so familiar with both the way the note looks on the page and what it feels like and looks like on the keyboard. Okay? So you would play, let's say you have trouble with the notes in the bass clef, like we were saying. So we were on measure 2, F sharp, you play and say F sharp. Then you go back and you do those 2 measures, B, B, F sharp, by looking at the music. You have to say it out loud, just like you have to say your friends' names out loud, right? To get to know them. B, B, F sharp. you do that with every measure to start, and then you start remembering, like, oh, wait, the guy that is on the second ledger line from the top, excuse me, is an F sharp. I remember. I recognize. All right. So it's a mental block that I've noticed some people have, and you can easily let it go. Our minds are very malleable. There's this idea that after a certain age, it's hard to learn. That has not really been proven by the scientific studies. What has been proven is brain plasticity. So, whenever you apply your attention, your focused attention on learning something, your body is on your side. You form neural connections, and it starts to get easier and easier to learn. So this idea of like, well, I'm too old to learn to read music, no, there's a way to do it, and it's not that hard. Okay, so before I move on, any questions? Diane, Gary? I'm going to take a sip of water. Let me know if this is making sense to you, or if I'm leaving something out. All good. You still here, Diane? Okay. So for the most part, the people who signed up for this class, who are not here but who will be watching later, for the most part, they wanted to know, or you wanted to know, how to kind of merge the two. So let's say like the advanced version is just a little too much for you, and the easy version doesn't sound as full or as fancy as you want it, and plus it's not as long. So how do you merge them? All right. It's a matter of deciding what level of commitment you want to give to this particular song. So let's say that you want to learn it fairly fast, and it doesn't matter to you that you play everything that is on the page. And by the way, that's not a cop-out. A lot of professional musicians, when they're playing songs, I'm not talking about classical music. Classical music is kind of set in stone at this point, and it's accepted, it's expected that in classical music you're going to play what we see on the page, okay, whatever the composer is thought to have written. Of course, editors had a hand in that. In pop music, rock, jazz, blues, whatever, it's kind of the exact opposite of that. Unless you're, a studio musician who was given a particular thing to play, or you're on stage and you have a particular set of notes that you have to play. Let's say like you're part of a string section. Okay, that's different. You can't make up your own thing because it's going to sound wrong compared to what everybody else is doing. But especially if you're a solo pianist or a pianist who's playing and singing, it's not expected or even desired that you're going to play everything note for note that you see on the page. So you might say, well, why do you write note for note? Because it got to give you something, okay? And from there, you can decide what you want to keep, what you want to discard. Does that make sense? You don't have to play every single note that you see. And you can add notes that you don't see. Let me see. I'm just going to check in with my email, make sure nobody's trying to get in when they can't. Okay, I still don't have any. All right. That being said, one thing that gets kind of neglected when people are learning a piece of music, a song, is that your ear has a lot to do with it. Even if you're not playing by ear, so playing by ear is like basically what I do when I write these versions of songs. I put on the recording on YouTube and I go through and I hear everything and I write it down. I don't have to. I mean, if I want to make sheet music, I write it down. If I'm learning for myself, I don't write it down. I just kind of listen and learn. So that's playing by ear. It's just whatever you hear, not looking at sheet music or even at like a lead sheet or anything like that. So when you put a piece of music in front of you, a lot of times the playing by ear thing is not even addressed, but it should be, because your ear should be leading you where to go. So if you're playing this song, chances are like 100% that you love it, right? So you've heard it, I don't know how many times. You can probably sing it. You can hear it in your head. So right now, if I stop talking and I say inside your head, listen to, I think it's Don Henley who's singing this. Listen to him singing on a dark desert highway, right? So like just, I'm going to stop talking and I want you to hear it in your head. Can you hear it? Answer me if you're here. Can you hear it inside your head? Like the song, how it goes. Yes. Okay. So how are we able to do that? Isn't the human body an amazing thing? So you want to be hearing that as you play. For example, I know that the intro has a lot of notes in it, like the way the guitarists play it, but can you kind of generally hear bum ba ba bum ba bum 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 ba 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 bum, right? Bum ba bum ba bum 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 bum. You know, kind of hear how it goes. So that should be helping you to kind of assimilate what is happening on the page. All right, we'll come back to that in a minute. Another thing that will help you to play a more difficult version, I'll address making the easy version more full in a second. So another thing that will help you play the harder version easier if you don't want to play all the notes on the page, and I will admit it took me a while to practice this. It wasn't just like a sit down and play situation, okay? So it's not easy to play. For one thing, 10 fingers compared to an entire band and singer, right? And so there's a lot to fit in. And then like the guitar solo parts, the piano isn't played the same way as a guitar is. It's got different challenges. Can't really like slide into notes on a piano. So this is not an easy thing to play. It's definitely advanced. But if you want to play the advanced version and you want to have some place to start that isn't playing note for note, you'll want to first kind of analyze what is happening. And this will also help you in learning such a long piece. So we know that this part is the intro. Play the intro again, and this time there's like an undercurrent happening. You hear that in the left hand? But the right hand is basically doing the same thing it did in the first half, and that makes it more difficult because in the first half of the intro, the left hand was just kind of holding notes, you know, just kind of repeating something once in a while. But now the left hand is playing both the bass player's parts, which are the low notes, right? But also playing the line that goes, right? So that makes it way more challenging. So what do? Well, you can start off just by playing the first note of, or like the first chord of every measure, like this, and then hear the next thing that happens. So bum 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 bum. Better than I'm singing right now. Then you do the same thing in the next part. So basically, you're practicing it in your head without making your fingers do stuff. This is a really great way to practice. You've probably never heard this way to practice before. So give me some feedback. Does this make sense? Where you play the chord, which is basically the first thing that happens in every measure, and you hear what happens after it. So in a way, you're becoming familiar with what you're going to play before you are asking your body to carry out these commands. Yeah, it makes sense. So remember that we can understand intellectually like that, right? But to get our body to do the thing might take years. Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a second, Gary. So, for example, if I wanted to do a cartwheel, I can't do cartwheels. I understand. Like, you put your one hand down, you flip your legs up, put the other hand down, one leg. I can understand that. When I go to do it, my body's like, what do you want me to do now? Right? So it might take me months to build up, the upper body strength to do it, to get myself over the fear of throwing, my body to the side. So we're using that reality to our advantage here. So we're getting it intellectually first, and then we're going to get the body on board. So then what you can do is, like Gary, you said, you can add certain notes. Let's say you play the first measure and it feels pretty easy. You're able to do it. Why? Because there's like basically one note happening at any time, right? The hands just play together right on the first beat. Then after that, it's just one hand at a time, right? So that would be easy to do if you practiced it. But now if you look at the next part, which is the second half where that left hand introduces that moving line, now it's going to slow you down a little bit. So now I'm looking at measure 9. So if you've got your music, take a look at that. Now we've got more stuff happening. So this is measure 9, and I'm going to go slowly. Here the left hand plays, then the right hand. Now here both hands are going to be playing. So what I would do, I would practice like this. And I would just stop there. This is a really good practice technique where you stop on the event that is either giving you trouble or is new, that sort of thing. So you play, and basically what happens is that becomes like your bullseye that you're aiming toward, and you stop right as when you play it, you stop there and you kind of imprint it in your mind and in your fingers. There it is. Okay, you do it again. Boom. I'm imprinting. Okay. Boom. When I've done that many times, then I'm going to move on to the next bullseye, which is beat 4. So watch. Nice and slow. This one's easy now because I've imprinted. And I stop there. That's my next bullseye. And I drill that. Drilling is a really important part of learning. Boom. Stop. Do it again. Boom. Okay? So you can use this technique for anything that gives you trouble. You stop right on that thing. You have to play it. Don't go any further. Stop right there and keep drilling, going into it, so that it becomes so familiar that you not only don't dread it, but you don't even think about it anymore. It's just like, oh yeah, that's part of playing. Does that make sense, Gary? Diane, you still here? Also focus on holding the B for the entire bar. You don't have to. You don't have to, because if you don't, here's what happens. pedal all the way through. You don't have, if that is giving you trouble, like if your technique isn't quite there yet where you can hold this and do that, don't stress about it. Work on your technique so that that won't be an issue for you very long. But if it doesn't, here's what you can do. You can play it again if you're going to change pedal. Does that make sense? So you can adapt it like this. Play it again. Or play it on beat 4 like this. Oh, sorry, I'm going to let... Oh, what's that on my hand? Oh, I didn't scratch myself. Okay. So here it is. I'm going to let it go. I'm changing my pedal here. And then I play B again. You can do that, or you can just leave it out. Change pedal. Doesn't sound bad. Listen. Okay? Or you can try to hold it. The way I hold it, so I don't know, Gary, if you've taken my Become a Piano Superhero courses, but if you do, let me know if you have. Then I can talk to you in a different way. So, but I'll talk to whoever is watching this. I think pretty much everyone has. So what happens is many times if you haven't been taught, that's next. Yeah, Gary, I would get on that right away because technique is the basis for everything. Think about it. Whatever industry you're in or sport or whatever, if you don't have like the physical and mental like basics of the thing, everything else after that, it seems much harder than it should. So and you can just do it in 10 minutes a day. It doesn't need to be like a huge part of your life. But anyway, so unless you've been taught differently, most people, when they're holding a note, they're pressing down on it, which is not ideal because you're using force. And when you use force, you're tightening your body. And when you play, you can't be tight. Otherwise, first of all, you can't move if you're too tight. But also, you can't play fast if your muscles are tight. And then you would develop like all kinds of injuries, which then will prevent you from playing. So rather than pushing down on a note, just think that you're sitting in it. In the same way, are you sitting right now? Probably yes, I'm sitting. Am I actively pushing my body down on the bench? No. Just letting gravity do its work, right? I'm just sitting here. So in the same way, when you're holding a note, don't push on it. Just let it hang there. Because I have small hands, many times if I'm reaching, I'll just hook my pinky or whatever note it is onto the edge of the other key and let that hold me. I'm applying zero effort, zero pressure down into the key there. I'm just just letting it sit in there. So again, your brain will understand this, but getting your body to do it requires work. And in the Become a Piano Superhero course, Diane, you've done it. I do like drill so that you don't have to apply your intellect to it anymore. You're just teaching your body to move in certain ways. Okay? So if that's hard for you to like, I know you understand it mentally, but if it's hard for you to just sit in a key, you need to develop your technique. All right? So you can do it like that. You can also leave out notes when you are playing from the advanced version. For example, let's say you're looking at the second half of, and this you can apply this to the whole song, okay? Say you're looking at the second half, still here and following everything, inconvenient to chat. Okay, got it, Diane. Just wanted to make sure you're okay. Let me know if you have any questions, okay? So you can apply it to the whole song. Let's say you're playing the second half of the intro, starting measure 9. And this, for now, is just too much for you. Leave out notes. Here's how you do it. You figure out what are the important beats of the measure or an important lick or a riff. Something that if you leave it out, you'll miss it. So let's take a look. Let's do some experimenting. I'm just looking at that one measure, but you can apply it to the whole song, okay? So I'm going to leave out the second note in the right hand. So the 1E and watch. That worked. I didn't miss it at all. So what I've written is this. That quick D. I'm leaving out the first D. So it just looks and sounds like this. Did you really notice a difference? No, not really. I'll play them both one after the other. Original and then the one leaving out one note. Made no difference, right? All right, leave out that note. Can I leave out any other notes? Well, let's see. What if I leave out the third note, like on beat 2? It's not that bad. Actually, I wouldn't even miss it. Or I could leave out I'm on beat 2 now. I can play the first D and then leave out the other 2 notes of beat 2. So I'm going to play, it's getting complicated. I'm going to play the first beat. I'm going to leave out this D. Then I'm going to play the other D on beat 2. That sounds like something was missing. So listen. There was something missing. So that's not a good idea. What if I leave out the 2 Ds that are on beat 1 and 2, like this? That worked. Awesome. I'm glad, Diane. Did you hear that? I left out, I'm on measure 9. I played the first beat. Now I'm leaving out the D in the right hand and the next D in the right hand, and I'm going to play F D. That sounded good. So I can technically leave out the 2 Ds and be fine. Easy, right? What else can I leave out? Well, it's a matter of doing some experimenting and also using your own taste. Like, you might think something sounds good, I might think it doesn't sound so good, and vice versa. Again, it's your song, right? So what else could I leave out? Did you see what I left out? I left out on beat 3, I left out the D and the F sharp. So this is how you can adapt a harder sheet music to your own level. Leave out as many things as you want. Put in as many things as you want. Use your ear. Do some experimenting. Okay? So I'm going to leave out everything I just talked about, which is in the right hand. I'm keeping the stuff in the left hand because it's pretty important in my mind, because it's got this. I think it's really beautiful. It's so like dark and sad. So I'm going to leave out in the right hand the 2 Ds that happen on the end of beat 1 and on the beginning of beat 2. And then on beat 3, I'm going to leave out the last 2 notes, the 16th notes. So this is what it sounds like. Yeah, sorry. Nope, we'll leave those out. Okay. Did you hear that? Sounds good. So I left out a lot of the busy work. Yeah. Does that make sense, Gary? So you leave out the non-essentials and you keep in the stuff that you want to keep in. Still with me, Gary? Yes, tricky. It's only tricky because you're not used to doing it. Okay? How do you get used to doing it? By getting in there and experimenting. Lots of times when I'm playing, as a professional, if somebody gives me sheet music and it's like something super simple, I'll add all kinds of stuff to it. And then on the other hand, if it's like crazy notation and I'm sight reading, I'll leave out things but just on sight. So it's possible to do. It takes time and it takes work. Okay. So that's the intro. Now, how do you wrap your mind around this really long piece? What you should do is get a piece of paper or just write on your sheet music. Notate, okay, intro here. Then make a note like verse 1. So verse 1 starts where does it start? On a dark desert highway. On measure 17, you would write verse 1 or V1. Okay? And then verse 2. Okay. Then we get the verse 2. Where do you start? On a dark desert highway. I guess that would be all verse 1. Then the refrain or the chorus starts on "Welcome to the hotel." Okay, so that would start on measure 34. So there you would write C1 or chorus 1. And you would go through the whole song and make notes of what's happening where so that you don't have like this multi-page monster you need to deal with, right? And what you can do is learn the intro. Then learn the chorus, and the chorus is going to be pretty much the same every time it comes around. And then there's a bridge. It's the part where like mirrors on the ceiling, pink champagne on ice. It's kind of like the bridge because it has the same chord structure, but it's like quiet and stuff. So in my mind, it's the bridge, but it's not really. So you can decide like, okay, I'm going to learn verse 1 today, or the right hand to verse 1 or the left hand to verse 1. And it's really important, unless you're like super advanced, it's really important to learn hands separately first. It's like you teach each hand what to do. And if you feel more comfortable with the right hand, I would recommend that you start with the left hand. Why? Because you are at the beginning of your practice session, your mind is fresher, okay? And you're going to give it better attention. And you're not going to skip it at the end if you're tired. So we tend to want to play the stuff that's fun. And of course, we do. But if you don't work on the stuff that seems less fun, how's it going to get better? It's not. And it's going to feel more and more alien to you, more and more distant, right? So if you notice on a lot of my tutorials, I start with the left hand. That's one of the reasons. Another reason to start with the left hand is it provides like the basis, the chord structure for the most part. And it tells you where you are in the song in a different way than listening to the melody. Okay, so practice hands separately, do the things that I said, name the notes, leave out whatever doesn't have to be there if you're trying to simplify it. You can also leave out the grace notes. The grace notes are like my way of showing when the singer is, bending a note, like sliding into a note, or whenever the guitarists are, sliding around. So for example, if I'm looking at measure 17, I've got a grace note there, which is the E. So this is what I wrote. On a dark desert highway, right? I'm slowing it down. Way is how the singer sings it, but you don't have to play it like that. You could leave out the grace note. Sorry. Leave out the grace notes. No big deal. Left left out the grace note. Okay, leave out the grace notes. Later on, you can add them wherever you want. You don't have to put them where the sheet music says. Also, the left hand here is pretty involved. Why? Well, the band has a drummer. I don't have a drummer. So for me to have a good, like, rhythmic, I don't know, feel, I decided to put that in. It's pretty close to what I think the bass player is playing and with the band. Not exactly. But if that's too much, and it is a lot, you can leave it out. You could do, I'm on measure 17. The first note of every measure and then the last note, and that's good. And I left out the grace notes, so already it's like 100 times easier. So I'll give you two versions. This is exactly what I wrote. Triplets there and like interesting rhythms because I like it that way. Now here's the simplified version. I also simplified the rhythm in the right hand. How do I know what rhythm to play? I know the song. So this is where the internal hearing comes in. You know how the song goes. You can even sing with it, right? On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair, warm smell of colitas rising up through the air. Up ahead in the distance, I saw a shimmering light. My head grew heavy and my sight grew dim. I had to stop for the night. Okay, so by hearing it either on the inside or singing it out loud, you kind of will know what rhythm to play. Then you see that the second half of the verse has the same chords. Okay, well, how do we know what the chords are? So looking at measure 17, we can see that we've got an F sharp, a B, an F sharp, and a D, basically. B minor. Next chord. If you don't know how to put chords together, my chord book, Piano Chords for Everyone, will help you with that. Also have videos on YouTube. So the second chord in the verse is F sharp major. The third chord is A major. And the fourth chord is E major. So far we have B minor, F sharp major, A major, E major. Next, G major, D major, E minor, F sharp major. We're going to cycle through that again in the second half. So you don't even have to think about it. You can write out the chord symbols on the sheet music and just kind of go by those and play like the bottom note, if you're simplifying it, is basically the name of the chord. So if you look at measure 25, it's the repetition, right? So we've got B minor. So I'm going to play B in the bass, in the left hand. Then F sharp. lot of repetition in pop music and rock, things like that. Use that to your advantage. I'm going to stop here and do a check-in. Gary, you're getting a private lesson here. It's awesome. How's it going so far? You still here, Gary? All good. All right. So now we're in the chorus, and we've got a chord structure. So these aren't just like random things happening randomly. It's very predictable. So the chords, starting on measure 33, which is the beginning of the first chorus. Welcome to the hotel. So that's G. California, D. Now, here is where you can leave stuff out. I put in like all those side things that the guitarists play. In this case, you don't have to do that. So let's say you're playing it starting on measure 33 and you're simplifying it. You can put that in because it's kind of, you see, I'm only playing the top notes of all these little chord structures. You can do that too. Leave out, leave out, leave out. That's how you pare down. You can always add things back in once you feel like, oh, well, I took out too much now. It doesn't sound so good. For example, at measure 34, if you leave out this guy, which is what the really cool lick that the guitarists play, and you think, well, now it just sounds like empty for 3 beats. So if you do this, this is starting at measure 33. Whoa, I want to do stuff. Okay, then you can put in the top notes of those da 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 da. So you could do this, starting at measure 33. Why? The right hand's not doing anything anyway, and it takes us back to like repeating the chorus chords. It's a really cool walk up. It's just going up. So the way I wrote it is, this is measure 36. Sorry, I'll do it again. You don't have to do it like that. You could just play one note like this. Again, take out, take out, take out. Start putting back in if you think you took out too much. So let me see if I can remember all the things I took out and play it for you like that, so you get an idea that it actually sounds pretty good. Starting at measure 33. Oh, also that chord at the beginning of measure 33, you can just play 2 notes. Sounds good? The G is just repeating what's down here. Whatever you want. This one is so pretty, E minor 9 chord, but basically you can think of it like an E minor chord. Back to the F sharp. So going through all the chords in the chorus, starting at measure 33. We've got a G chord. This is the chorus outline. Then we've got a D chord, F sharp major, B minor with a walk up. Takes us back to the G, measure 37, then D major, and then E minor, F sharp major. So you see the ending of the chorus is different than the first half. Very typical. It happens. Okay? Now, we go back to the verse. Guess what? It's going to be the same chords as the first verse. So, we're on measure 41, and this is the second verse, or however you want to think of the numbers of the verses. B minor, F sharp major, A major, E major, G major, D major, E minor, F sharp major, then we repeat. This would be like the third verse or fourth verse, however you want to think about it, or the continuation of the second verse. Same, B minor. So on measure 49. F sharp major, A major. We're just getting one chord per measure, which is really easy. Now we're E major, moving on to measure 53, G major, and then D major, E minor, F sharp major. Back to the chorus. Add whatever you like. You can do that. Make your own, right? So just because the Eagles recorded a certain way, or let me say that a different way. Just because the recording we hear is a certain way doesn't mean that they would always play it with the same licks and fills. So the reason I say the recording we hear is because when you're recording music, unless it's live, it's very rare that it's like played through and say, yep, we got it. Let's print that sucker. No, it's edited a lot. So maybe somebody does 18 guitar solos, and then the producer and the engineer and maybe the band will take parts of solos that they like and put them together, right? Or maybe there was like one genius solo and they're like, yeah, that's the one, man. But they'll put them together, and then the guitarist will learn that solo to play for performances. So that's why you shouldn't be so tied into what exists now. You can add your own licks, you can make your own solos. Unless you really love a solo, then you learn it note for note, and then you put your own spin on it, hopefully. Okay? So, is this making sense? Now, going into measure 65, where we have that quiet part. Mirrors on the ceiling, from there. So, the way I wrote it, and it doesn't have to be this way, I put in left hand stuff and right hand stuff, so I did. That's hard to do, okay? Takes a lot of coordination. Leave out the stuff that's happening, like the noodling that's happening in the left hand. That stuff. Leave it out. Just play a chord. And then you can, since the right hand isn't doing anything there, if you want, you can throw in the last two notes in the left hand. This is measure 65. Leave out the grace note. I put these as F sharps. It's really spoken. Mirrors on the ceiling, pink sharps in our eyes. And he said, or something like that, we are all just, so it's spoken. I just picked an F sharp. Then, measure 67. We are all just prisoners here of our own device. Okay, so the chords here are basically the same as the verses. Yeah. All right, does that make sense? You're just gonna play a chord. So that is B minor, F sharp major. Yes, the same. A major. Here I wrote it this way, but it's really an E7, E dominant 7. You can play that. It's implied that it's an E chord, E major, and then G major. major, they gathered for the feast. And then E minor, they stabbed it with their steely knives. And but they just can't kill the beast. There you want to give it a little bit of oomph because it's like the, like the lyrics are like, just can't kill the beast. So you could do, if you don't want to play what's there, let's say you're going into it from measure 71. They stab it with their steely knives. You could do this. Just can't kill the beast. See what I did? Octaves in the left hand. And basically, instead of playing all those chords in the right hand, I played the top note. This is measure 72. And the bottom note. And I did them together. Great. Let me play going into it. Sorry. Sounds good to me, right? So you can leave out all that stuff I wrote. That was my way of like doing the drum fill. All right, and then last thing I remember. Okay. Basically the verse again. All right. Coming to the guitar solo. Those were hard to play, P.S. Don't have to play the solos the way I wrote them. Where does it start? Just can't get... Oh, where am I? Okay, so the guitar solo goes into measure 83. Don't have to do all that. You can just do, if you want to play this solo more or less the way I wrote it, you could do this. Sorry. No, I'm doing that because I'm looking up and down all the time. Okay. You're playing just the left hand octave Bs. Now, the right hand's going to play what it's got. Left hand's just going to hang out there. Left hand plays the F sharp. Now, if this is hard, you could do that, or you could do whatever. Then, I'm kind of proud of this. I used the lowest key on the piano, the A. I liked it because it gave it a lot of oomph. But you don't have to do that. You can play the A's here, and then just, hold it. Playing just the top notes that you see there, and I'm leaving out the grace notes. So let me do that without talking. And so all I'm doing is playing left hand octave on beat 1 and holding it, and the right hand is playing just the top notes of whatever I've got there, and no grace notes. You can simplify it that way. So check it out. All right. Picking up, going into measure 81. You can bring this up an octave. Pretty good, right? You don't have to do all the other stuff. So if you really want to play the solo, pare it down. The last part of the solo is actually the easiest part. Da 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 da. It's so easy because it's just the left hand is just playing, right? And you don't have to play all that. You could do. To do that, you could do. So put in as many notes as you want. The right hand, it's playing a triad, 3-note chord, and then it's just kind of repeating the notes in that chord. See that? So if I played even simpler than that, I could do this. of course, I'm not playing as many notes. Okay, you could do that. Or if you have a little more technique in you, you could do. Just play one note up here. You don't have to play the whole chord. In fact, you don't even have to play the whole chord to start. So instead of doing this, see I'm playing the chord to start, you can just play bum, bum, bum. And just the top note here. Sounds great. I would play that if I were playing in a place where I was like talking to people. That's probably how I'd play it. You know, like, hey, you know, how's it going? Yeah, glad you're here today. Sounds good. You could do that in the left hand. Choose your adventure, like those books. So you could do. Just hold it, left hand. Or you could do this. As much as you want. So Gary is saying, help with recognizing the bass notes in measure 83, and they're like, is there an easy way to recognize them? It's exactly what I said, Gary, in the beginning. You have to play and name them. Or you could just write in the chord symbols too. Like the first one is B, B minor, F sharp, major. Sound familiar? It's the verse. I think it's also the same as the intro. So if you really want to start learning to read music, you would say, okay, look at the music, starting on measure 105, left hand, B. B, 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 B. F sharp, 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 F sharp. A, 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 A. You see how many we've got in a row? If you say each one of them, you're going to learn it so fast, you won't need to ask anybody to clarify for you. If you're playing like fresh and you don't know how to find that note, use something called landmark notes. So in the bass clef, we've got 5 lines, right? So we've got the top line, the second one from the top, that's where the F goes. This F is on the second line from the top. From there, you use the music alphabet to count down or up. F, and each note gets its own line or space. So F, E, D, C, B. We see that the line second from the bottom is a B by counting, right? The more you start like using this information and really saying it out loud makes you learn so much faster, the easier it gets. There's lots of repetitions, especially here at this song. Does that make sense? So the easy way to recognize them is to learn them. It's learning a language. And it's not even like a hard language. I don't know what the easiest language in the world is, but I would say music notation is right up there. Very easy once you decide to do it. Yeah. So with the ledger lines, Gary, so Gary's saying he doesn't know the ledger lines. You just use that counting system. So you find a note that you know on the staff and you use the music alphabet. If you're going lower, you go backwards on the music alphabet. If you're going higher, you go forwards on the music alphabet, right? All of this stuff is actually in my piano boot camp and also instant piano courses. You might want to take a look if you need to fill in the holes in your knowledge. So you would just count down. So for example, if we're looking at measure 105, okay, let's say you know that top note is a B. All right, so go down to the next space, that would be A. Down to the next space, that would be G. Next line would be G. Down to the next space would be F. Next line would be E. Next space would be D. Next line would be C. And the next space would be B. Boop, 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 boop. There's no shortcut for learning. I know it's really popular these days. Like, you can learn piano in minutes. No, you can't. No, you can't. You can copy somebody in a few minutes if it's something very basic, but that's about it. All right? Take the time to go through this, and you'll learn how to see the notes, where you, after a while, you won't have to do that anymore. You just kind of recognize them. Yeah? Good, Gary. All right, so that's the advanced version. Now, let's say you're playing the easy version and you want to spice it up a little bit. You can add stuff. So I'm looking at the easy version now. Measure 1. Here's what I wrote. To me, that sounds pretty good. But if you want to make it sound fuller, you can, left hand, you can play an octave. Right? That's pretty good. Next measure, we've got this. So how do we make that fancier? Well, we've added octave in the first measure. What you can do is play an octave in the second measure, and that top note of the left hand, take it with the right. So I know it's written in the left hand, but there's no law that says you have to play it in the left hand. So I'm looking at the A sharp on measure 3. It's written for the left hand, but my right hand is going to play it. Why? Because I want my left hand to play an octave there. To me, it sounds fuller. So I'll show you the original, or the version I wrote, and then the modified to make it sound fuller. Okay? Original. Modified. The fingering will have to change because you're playing different combination of notes. But you see, I made one adjustment in the first measure, and I made 2 adjustments in the third measure. The 2 adjustments were, I played the left hand octave, and the right hand took the top note of the left hand. Make sense? Same thing, you can do it in measure 5. Instead of playing a single note, play octave. And then measure 6, I'm going to do the same thing that I did in measure 3. So I'm adding left hand octave, and I'm taking the left hand top note with the right hand. Okay? I'll play that whole thing, so if you're, copying me, you have a frame of reference. Now left hand's going to octave. Okay, and you can play it as fast as you want. Gary, you already did this? Good. Good. You're definitely on the right track. I do this all the time. If I'm given like super simple music to play and I'm like, that does not sound good, I fill in. You can fill in by adding more notes, and you can fill in by changing rhythms. You can fill in by adding runs or fills. So those are 3 ways you can make an easy version sound better. Add more notes, vary the rhythm, add rhythmic interest, and add fills or runs. Okay? So in this case, I'm not adding fills or runs in the intro. And I also wrote the intro as like half the real intro that the Eagles play, because I didn't want to add the... Okay? But if you want, you can combine the 2. So this will require you kind of knowing what those fill notes would be in the left hand. So if you look at measure measure 9. So you see that you've got, okay, now if I add that to what's happening in the right in the easy version, and it wouldn't be measure 9, I would have to repeat from the beginning. Remember that in the easy version, 2 measures are the same as 1 measure in the harder version, because I made the note lengths longer, easier to read. So you would do, let's say you want to play the intro twice and add that left hand. Okay, so that would would be like the first 4 measures of the easy version intro. And here's what I did. I played the first chord as is, then I held the right hand because now the left hand's doing stuff, and I know I'm going to play. Now, I'm on measure 3 of the easy version, and I'm going to play right hand, A sharp and C sharp like I was doing before, and left hand those melody notes. So you see that? Let me show you what that would look like if I actually played it the way I just said. So I'm going to play the intro of the easy version as written. Which I think sounds good. Really good. Same chords as the harder version. Back to the beginning, and I'm going to remember or write in those notes that are added in the left hand. No. You have to finesse it a little bit. I'm looking at just one and not at both, but figure out how to fit it in if you want to add that part to it. Okay? Or you don't have to. You can just play the intro through twice if you want to. And then what I did on the verses, instead of following the rhythm of the melody that is dictated by the words, you know, the lyrics and the number of syllables and all that, I opted to make an easier kind of rhythm. But if you know how the song goes, you can add the rhythm to your liking. So the way I wrote, this is measure 21. Sorry, now let me start and measure 17. That actually goes along with the lyrics, right? Cool wind in my hair, sort of, with the rhythm. Warm smell of colitas rising up through the air. That kind of follows. Up ahead in the distance, I saw a shimmery light. I'm trying to remember the lyrics. My head grew heavy and my side grew. That's pretty accurate. Now, optional repeat if you don't want to go immediately to the chorus. Now, here is where you kind of have to ignore the rhythm that is written if you want to make it fancier. How does it go? There she stood in the distance, rang the mission bell, something like that. I was thinking to myself, this could be heaven or this could be hell. Then she lit up a candle, I'm trying to remember the lyrics, and she showed me the way. There were voices in the corridor, I had thought I heard them say. Okay, so you could kind of do like that, pick out the melody if you want to, if you wanted to make it more, you know, like the song. Or you can do kind of like a hybrid of that. You can, on the second time through, where the rhythm is different, in the left hand, instead of doing this, you can play just the first note of measure 17, last note of measure 18. First note of measure 19, last note of measure 20. So there she stood in the doorway, rang the mission bell. I was thinking to myself, this could be heaven or this could be hell. Then she lit up a candle and she showed me the way. So you kind of looking at at the sheet music that's there, but you're looking through it, if that makes sense. You're using the sheet music to kind of keep you on track of where you are in the song, but you are, meaning like what chords you're on, but you are using your ear to figure out the right hand melody. It's not easy. You have to practice. Okay? None of this is easy. And then now we're at the chorus. So you see I added a little bit of that fill, but it's not too difficult. So let's say you want it a little more full than this. You like it, but you want more. What you could do is, instead of playing single notes in the right hand, you can play the chords like this. Okay, so I've already said the chords for the advanced version. It's the same for the easy version. I did in the same exact key so that you can kind of combine them if you want. So G major, that's G, B, D. So instead of just doing, I'm doing, okay? Now D major, F sharp major. And this is going to be B minor, but with an E in to start with because it's the melody note. Now G major, D major, E minor, F sharp major. So you see what I'm doing? Like, you have to have knowledge of chords, obviously, and you need to teach your hands where those chords are on the piano. Okay, check out my YouTube videos on chords if you need help with that. So it's not hard, but it requires thinking in a different way and practicing what the chords are. But what makes it easier is the repetition of the chord sequences. Okay? So I think I have answered all the questions. Here's a question that might come up. If you learn the easy version, is it then easier to learn the advanced version? I believe so, because then you're more familiar with the world of that song. Like, again, you know the chord structures, the kind of the melodies, and then as you pick up the advanced version after you learn the easy version, yeah, you'll have a little bit of muscle memory to kind of relearn. It's true, but you can then do what I showed you earlier in this class, which is like leave out certain things, and you'll know, kind of where you are in the song and what you can leave out and that sort of thing. Again, none of this happens without practice. It doesn't. Okay, I practice all the time, and I've been playing my whole life. So, there's that thing that says, like, if you put in 10,000 hours into an activity, you become a master. That's not exactly true, because what matters is the quality of those 10,000 hours, right? You're not going to become a master in 10,000 hours if you practiced incorrectly, and now you've got carpal tunnel syndrome, and you never really learned how to think musically. Maybe you copied a lot, that sort of thing. So it's not a matter of putting in a lot of time, although time is part of it. It's a matter of how do you use your time, okay? And that's why I'm writing the practice book, because all the questions I get about practicing. So that's coming up soon. I'm going to start wrapping up unless there are any questions of the people who are here today. If you watch this on a replay and you have questions, the best place to write them, and where I will see and where a wide variety of people will see, is in the Piano Practice Tips Facebook group. I try to avoid answering questions via email because it's very time consuming, and it doesn't really help other people who might have the same questions. So best place, piano practice tips with a piano case. All right, so any questions, any responses? I think this has been really fun for me. I love teaching. I love sharing my knowledge. Is there a link? Yeah. Okay. Great question, Gary. If you go to my website, thepianokeys.com, you'll see a picture called courses. You click on courses, and that will take you to the pages that explain what all the courses are. So Piano Bootcamp basically teaches you how to read sheet music for the piano and how to practice it. So I'm not a fan of giving you information and saying, bye, see you later. I don't like to be taught that way. I want to learn from the teacher, like, what do you do, right? So that's how I teach you. So I give you information and then we practice together. Like, you literally see my hands and, I explain everything I'm doing. You practice with me and then you go practice on your own. This, I believe, I know from experience, is the only way to learn. You can't just give someone information and send them on their way. There are free preview lessons in all of my courses because I want you to understand how it's being taught, so you can go sign up for those. Now, Become a Piano Superhero came in response to the hundreds of people who are asking me, why can't I play fast? Why can't I get each hand to do something different? And the simple reason is because you haven't taught your body how to move as a pianist, okay? And so what I do in Become a Piano Superhero is I take you through increasingly more difficult exercises that teach your body how to move so that you don't have to constantly think about the physical aspect of playing the piano. Does that make sense? So they're teaching you different skills. It's really, I get so mad when somebody says, this course is all you need to play the piano. That is complete BS. No, playing piano is really complicated. There's so many facets of it. One course, one book, never. That's why there's so many different things that I focus on. Like, I have a pedaling course just to get your body used to using the pedal in conjunction with your hands, right? There's a lot to learn. So Gary, I hope that answers your question. Go check out my courses on my website. Take all the free previews that you'd like to get an idea of what is involved. Okay? All right. So thanks so much for joining me. And then, I'm always on piano practice tips. You can contact me there. So I'm going to say goodbye here. And thank you, Gary. I'm glad that it was helpful for you. And thank you for joining me. And thanks to everybody who gave me your questions, because that helped me to direct this masterclass to your particular desires. Okay? Thank you, Gary. Glad to hear it. All right. Bye, guys. I'll see you around. I'll see you soon. Okay. Bye.